Good morning, everyone. Here is Riccardo from Italy, and I would like to say you welcome to another Power BI User Group Milan webinar. And today I have the pleasure to have here from the Netherlands Mark Lelyveld, Power BI expert that will talk about artificial intelligence in Power BI ecosystem. With me there is also Lorenzo that will help me with the Q&A and support for this session. As usual, we are using Teams Live Event to manage the event. So you have the Q&A panel open on the right side of your window in order to interact directly with Mark. So if you have some question for him, you are free to put the question in the Q&A panel, and we will forward the question to Mark. We will open as usual on our user group site a specific thread and a specific folder with all the slides and the demo that Mark will share with us. And as usual, we are recording the session, so it will be available on our YouTube channel. So subscribe if you like, in order to see all the session that maybe you haven't seen yet. If you want to stay up to date with all the events that we are organizing, you have also the possibility to follow us in the Meetup channel. So if you like, this is the code that you can use to reach us. Just one news from the world. Yesterday it's better. It has been released the July 2020 version of Power BI Desktop, and it has one incredible feature that it has been included in preview. So the possibility to include external tools in your Power BI Desktop. Let's go to see this fantastic tool. Just a few news about the next event. The next week we will have Stefano Bottoni with a session in Italian, this time with talking about time series in Power BI. Just one slide to say thank you everybody, since this is our 15 event in 4 months. It's been a great run. We had more than 10 speakers talking about Power BI and all this stuff from 4 different countries and 2 continents. We reached more than 10 people live in each event and more than 150 subscribers on YouTube. And we are reaching the 2,000 views on YouTube, and that's a great result for us. We haven't imagined this before starting this great adventure. So thank you very much, and enjoy the session. It's time to listen for a great session from Mark. So, Mark, stage is yours.
Thanks. I will start sharing my screen.
Yes, I'll share your screen.
Yep, it should show up in a second.
Yes, you are live.
Great, thanks. So hello everyone, thanks all for being here. Today I will do my session about AI capabilities in Power BI, and especially to make AI available for everyone in your organization. I will do this session based on a few demos and of course some theory behind what is artificial intelligence. So first of all, when I prepared the session, I started Googling what is artificial intelligence. And as you can see, no matter that this is a Dutch search result, it doesn't really matter. As you can see, there's a lot of content about artificial intelligence available online. And even if you search for it in Bing, you will find a lot of content, which is maybe a little bit unexpected if you're not very familiar with using Bing. So let's dive a little bit deeper in what is artificial intelligence and how does this relate to Power BI and our day-to-day work with Power BI. First, let me shortly introduce myself. My name is Mark. I'm working as a data and AI consultant in the Netherlands at McCall, which McCall is a Microsoft partner. Besides that, I'm also for the second time awarded as Microsoft Most Valuable Professional in the category Data Platform. You can find me on LinkedIn, Twitter. Feel free to link with me and reach out to me. And also you can find a lot of content on my website, on my blog about everything related to Power BI actually. I have two passions, which is Power BI and is beer. And I try to combine those two passions with starting with the Power BIer. And that's actually one of my side things that I'm doing. I'm brewing my own beer and yeah, of course, enjoying it as well. So as I said, I'm from the Netherlands. I live in a very small town, which is called Haastrecht. If you literally translate it to English, it's called Almost Straight. And it is a very small town, very close to Gouda, what you probably know as Gouda, the cheese city. So that's about me. Enough about me, let's dive a bit deeper in artificial intelligence and Power BI. What we will cover today is first an introduction to AI. What is AI? Then we will start relating that to reporting and dashboarding nowadays. As third topic, we will have a look at what AI capabilities do you have in Power BI. And as fourth, of course, a lot of demos. I always like to take a risk every now and then, so I prepared a lot of demos to show you how you can apply AI functionality in your own reports. Artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is actually, for me as a newbie in this area, I already said it, I started Googling what exactly is the definition of artificial intelligence. There are a lot of buzz terms around nowadays about artificial intelligence, machine learning, neural networks, deep learning, all these terms, but what exactly is it? And if we have a look at artificial intelligence, it's actually any technique that enables machines to solve a task in the same way as we as a human being can do. So in other words, we're just automating stuff, which is great because we can save a lot of money and a lot of time by doing that. But is it really something special? Well, let's see in the applications of AI inside Power BI. If we have a look at the other topics that I just mentioned, like deep learning, that is really the next step. And that's maybe a little bit far away from what we're doing with Power BI and more related to data science. So this session is about artificial intelligence. So let's go a little bit deeper in that. If we look at what you're doing with artificial intelligence and what you're doing with data and artificial intelligence, you're always looking at the data, then start sensing the data. What is this data? Combining it with other sources, for example, reasoning the data, what am I looking at, engage with the data, learning from it, and then the circle starts all over again. These four steps are always applied by artificial intelligence, and it is a continuous loop. Having these four things, sense, reason, and engage and learn, where do we see artificial intelligence in our day-to-day life already? Actually, there's a lot of things around us that is already surrounded by AI. Think about computer vision. We are capable of recognizing objects based on computer vision, which is also AI. Somebody has told the machine, the computer, that an object like this is a car, an object like that is a traffic light. And as you can see on the picture, now we are able to process the data and the pictures in this case very fast with enough power to directly recognize objects. That's also AI. But also think about voice recognition. Your mobile phone maybe, that you're using Siri or Google Assistant or any other voice recognition system, where you can give an assignment to your phone, to your computer to do something for you. Another thing can be robotics, for example, car manufacturers. We learned this machine to do what we as a human being were doing in the past. But now we can do it much faster and much more efficient without with less risk for mistakes by automating it with machines. And of course, there's much more around us. But these are just three examples. But is AI innovation? I think not. AI doesn't understand anything as long as we do not tell it what to do. But AI is definitely a good one. Artificial is definitely a good one to learn from and to learn from each other, from what others have learned the model to do, to optimize your own systems and detect patterns, but also to inform you about a possible risk that you might face based on what you learned from the past, or inspire or what you can maybe do in the future. A fun one that I also found on the internet is the one I show on the right. As long as we do not tell what water is, it has no clue. So AI lives in the water, yet it doesn't know what water is. We have to tell what AI, artificial intelligence, what to do and how to act before it can do anything. If we have a look at what Microsoft is doing with AI, Microsoft is doing a lot with AI. The first things that we found were around 2016 about object recognition, where they also spent a lot of time on speech. So it's not only vision, but it's also related to speech and speech recognition, like the Cortana, for example. But another thing can also be language, where you can translate data or voice messages in an automated way. If we have a look at one of the biggest AI cases from Microsoft, is that they were able to create the first world's award-winning whiskey based on artificial intelligence. So what they did is combining a lot of data together from the past, which were the sales data from all the different whiskeys from the past, 7 million recipes from previously award-winning whiskeys, ingredients from previously award-winning whiskeys, customer preferences, so what do our customers like, and they put all of that together in the Azure Cloud Platform. Applied some Azure Cognitive Services, which is a typical thing that you might use for AI, and with that they were able to create this first world award-winning whiskey, and they actually won the award. So that's really a good achievement, which was in May 2019. If we all relate this to reporting and dashboarding, what we're doing nowadays is that everyone in our day-to-day life is engaging with software, or in particular with Power BI. Everyone in our organization is able to work with Power BI, create reports, create dashboards, engage with our data, and start transforming data into insights and maybe even into actions. These things combined results in the fact that you can have different types of reporting. For example, you can describe something that happened in the past and reason it, declare something, why it happened, what was the reason why we had lower sales numbers, for example, or explore your data. And if you ask me, I think AI is a really applied in the more exploring phase of data reporting and dashboarding. So if we have a look at reporting in the past, it was mainly static, paginated, and textual. For example, on the right side, you see a reporting service report. The fun thing is that this reporting service report was probably built even before I started working. I've never worked with this, honestly. And even worse, it includes pie charts, and that's my personal thing. But there are a lot of things that are not in this way visualized and communicated to the end user as we do it nowadays. So let's have a look at what we do nowadays. It's much more intuitive. It's more an intuitive reporting with a clear navigation, consistency across pages, an interactive experience, but also much more interactive also means that we have much more power in our hands to filter the data and recalculate data at the spot without reprocessing the whole data set. So we can also really easily drill from high level to a really detailed level. And all this comes together as business intelligence. But why not take it one step further and apply some more advanced analytics to it with artificial intelligence? So let's have a look at what artificial intelligence in Power BI is and what it can do. Power BI started in 2015, and back in 2015 is also the moment that I graduated from my bachelor education and I started working. So I had the pleasure to start working at the moment that Power BI became a separate product and was separated from SharePoint. Even back in 2015, the first applications of AI or advanced insights were already available in Power BI. In 2015, you were able to run R in Power BI visuals. So inside the Power BI visuals, you were at the R engine where you can build your own visuals or maybe do some minor transformations to your data. In 2016, they took the next step by also integrating R in the Power Query engine. So you can even do more transformations for the ones that are familiar with R inside the query engine before and process the data based on your R logic. 2017, there were not really new inventions related to AI, but in 2018, they also integrated Python in there for both the visuals and the query engine. In 2019, they really took a next step, and they did that by enabling everyone in the organization by doing more with AI functionality in Power BI. They did it by integrating artificial intelligence in data flows, and today we also have it outside of data flows in Power BI Desktop. I will show you that in a second. By coming up with a new visual, which is the key influencer visual, by being able to run Azure Auto Machine Learning from Power BI, or even run your custom built machine learning models from Power BI. A few of these things that I've told so far that are available today in Power BI are part of Power BI Premium, which is a dedicated resource in the cloud. So it's a different type of licensing. It's actually, you're not having a user-based license, but a capacity-based license. These dedicated resources is much more expensive, but there's a turnover point like 500 users, so your organization needs to be really big, or you need to have a really good business case for it. But let's not hold back based on this premium requirement. For every demo I will show you in a bit, I will tell you if it is related to Power BI Premium or not, because there is already a lot you can do without Premium. So all these functionalities in Power BI, what is related to your end user and what can you do, or what is more related to the data scientist? So if we have a look at the typical end user, an end user can use natural language query in Power BI, which is an application of AI. But also automated insights with quick insights, Q&A, or AI visualizations like key influencer or decomposition tree. As an analyst, you have more AI enrichments like text analysis, sentiment analysis, key phrase extraction, or image detection, but also AI transformations with Python or R maybe in a light way. The BI professional is more likely to use machine learning models that are prepared for him, or deploy new models to do some predictions or classifications. And more extended towards the data scientist, you can start using capabilities like R and Python, or even build your complete custom machine learning inside Machine Learning Studio and leverage that inside Power BI, or use automated machine learning. So there is a bit for everyone, and all these things that I've just mentioned doesn't have to be related to Premium. So where are we all doing this for? One of the goals that we might have is help the business to understand their data better. And functionalities that we can use for this scenario is in particular the Q&A, the natural language query, quick insights, key drivers, or clustering. And we have a look at what will help the analysts to prepare their data. That's more forecasting, cognitive services, automated machine learning, or R integration. And that is even before you start visualizing it. R integration will also be applicable for data scientists and analysts like Python and Azure Machine Learning integration to make it easier for data scientists and analysts to collaborate on the data set and enhance the insights. So we're only 20 minutes so far. Don't worry, you have more than enough demos prepared. I like to take a risk, so life's boring without risk. So let's dive into these demos and see what we can do now at this moment with AI applications in Power BI. The ones I will show you in a bit is quick insights. So we will start with a few very basic ones. After that, we will have a look at natural language query, also known as Q&A. Then we will have a look at the explain, increase, or decrease functionality, analyze distribution, the key influencer visual, but also the decomposition tree. And last but not least, the most powerful one for what I believe, and that is related to Power BI Premium, is AI insights in data flows or directly in Power BI Desktop. Let's have a look at the quick insights. Quick insights is a functionality that you get once you publish your Power BI report, your PBIX file to the Power BI service, or what you can directly trigger from your dataset in Power BI service. So in my workspace here in Power BI service, I have a bunch of datasets, reports, and dashboards published. If we have a look at this dataset, for example, the Hawaii tourism analysis, if I click the three dots here, I can click on a functionality that is called Get Quick Insights. Once I click that, I will start a wheel spinning on the right top, and this is gaining insights at this moment in my dataset. So it's looking for patterns, for interesting insights that might be useful for me. Once it's done, I can view it, view the insights, and it will show me in a second a few more insights to my dataset that are possibly new for me. Honestly, I'm not a real big fan of this functionality. And that is mainly because you need to be really on top of your dataset and you really need to know what columns and how the dataset is built before this will become useful. For example, this visual here on the right top is showing us that the island, this is all about island visits, Ohio accounts more majority of index, which is, if you ask me, not that useful as an insight because index is just a generated number in my dataset. So it doesn't really make sense to have this visual. Let's have a look at another one, for example. This can, for example, be an interesting one. The expenditures by date and by region. Maybe this can be a new insight for me. And what I can do with this is, for example, I can enlarge it. And once I enlarge it, I can tweak it a little bit further, filter it on a specific date. And if I really want to, I can pin this visual to an existing dashboard. So by clicking the little pin icon, I can pin it to a dashboard, an existing one or a new one. So I can really, in a fast way, enrich my insights in my dashboard with some new quick insights that Power BI came up with. Again, here we have another useless one, if you ask me. Index is trending upwards for a name Maui, whatever. It's related to index, so not useful at all. Though I'm using this functionality every now and then, and I'm mainly using this as an inspiration. So when I have a new data set, I'm not fully aware of what columns and what insights can be useful in this data set, or what possible splits can I visualize. I start using this quick insights functionality to inspire on what can be useful and what can be relevant. For example, if I see a visual like this, I think, okay, this can be an interesting one. I have a look at the columns that are used to create this visualization, and then I start recreating it in Power BI Desktop in my report as a native visualization. So still, it can be useful to inspire you of what's possible. But that said, you really need to be aware of what columns are in your data set and how is my data model built, what relationships are there, and more like that. The second demo I want to show you is related to a natural language query. And natural language query is also known as Q&A. So let's go to Power BI Desktop, and here we will use this dataset, which is the same as we used a second ago in the previous demo. So again, it's about Hawaii tourism analysis and the different islands that we have, people that visit the island and spend their money there. The Q&A functionality is possibly the functionality that was less used for a long time. If you ask people who are using the natural language query or Q&A functionality, probably only people from Microsoft or MVPs will raise their hand. And honestly, I was definitely one of them. But it all comes down to how is your data set built, what are your column names, and how is your relationship built, what measures did you create. So it is a useful feature, but it has a lot of pitfalls. So let's have a look. Here we have a button created, and this button triggers the Q&A functionality. Previously, this was a different look and feel as I've displayed here. This is the old look and feel how it was for a very long time. Luckily, in the July update, the July 2020 update, so the update of yesterday for Power BI Desktop, they upgraded this to the same interface as the native Q&A functionality has nowadays. So let's have a look at how this visual works, and let's start asking questions to our data. We now know that this data set is about tourism analysis and people visiting the islands. So let's show me something about the visits by island. And this can be useful because if we have a look here, it gives me some related questions or related column names even. It shows me a bar chart or a column chart based on the island names and a number that can be the visits. Sounds reasonable, but I, as a report author, I know that this column was called islands. But what about maybe I call it lands because I'm not fully aware of the dataset name. It's dataset names, so I have no clue what the column name is in my dataset. So I just type in visit by land, and this is where a lot of people stopped using the Q&A functionality. Simply because now it will only recognize the column visits, which is blue underlined, but the word land is not recognized as it's red underlined. So this was not that useful in the application of Q&A and natural language query, but let's have a look at how we can tweak it and make it very useful in your own data set. I created a new page here where I have a bunch of visuals. What I can do is add the Q&A visual, which is a native visual if you have one of the latest versions of Power BI. And I believe it's there for over a year already, or almost a year. I don't know in specific. But this visual really looks a lot like the one you just show as a pop-up window. And if I ask the same question here, it will show me the same results. So we know the number of visits, but we don't know what a land is. There are a few things that we can do, but there's one thing that we can do here more than in the pop-up window, which is the gear icon that we have here. Once I click this gear icon, I get a bunch of functionalities and a bunch of additional functionalities that I can leverage in order to tweak and train the Q&A functionality. So here we have something like field synonyms, where I see all my tables and I see all my column names and everything. I'll get back here in a second because this is also a new one as of the July 2020 update. I can review questions. So if this data set was published to the Power BI service, I can just refresh it here. It couldn't find it because probably it's just removed or whatever. But I can see what questions were asked by my end users to this data set. But let's have a look at Teach Q&A. Here you see the same question as I just entered, visits by land. It doesn't know what a land is, but here it allows me to define as a report author to tell this data set a land refers in this case to an island because I know that this column is called islands. And what you'll see, the preview of my results is loading and I get the same visual that was really useful. I can hit the save button and what will happen now is they're both blue underlined and from now on it will recognize the word land as it is an island. So here we have managed terms. I can see all the terms that I've added and I can even add some suggested questions like visits by island. I can add this as a suggested question. Oh, I made a typo. For example, I can say the expenditures by island by something like this. All these suggested questions will show up here. If I remove this question, will show up here as the possible interesting questions to ask. But we were not quite done yet with the settings that we have here. Because we have field synonyms here, and field synonyms is what I just did by teaching Q&A, but I can also have a look at my island table, for example. And what I will see here at this moment is that you see land here, and that's what I just added. I just added the word land as a synonym for the islands table. Power BI also comes up with a bunch of suggested terms, like what can possibly relate to the column name and table name that you have, like a friendly name, island friendly, and maybe I say, okay, only friendly name is useless, get rid of that one. But I also want to add, for example, island in a different language, because maybe people from different backgrounds are using my dataset. So there are a bunch of things that you can do here and include here. But also see that you can include a column to or an entire table to Q&A or not. So what I can say is, for example, I want this. Don't want this one to be used, but I only want the island friendly name column to be used. In that case, you can get rid of technical namings. You can get rid of IDs that are used in your data set and only work with friendly, user-friendly names. So let me add the word land here again. And only work with user-friendly names in your Q&A functionality. Though I want to show you one more thing. This interface doesn't have to be used when you're working with Q&A functionality. Because what it's actually doing, what this functionality is doing, and remember that we just added the word land as a synonym. If we have a look at our data model and we pick the table islands here, one of the properties that we have is synonyms. And in here you see that we also have the word land. So what Power BI is doing with this interface is adding synonyms to our data set. So if you, as a report author, want to add a lot of synonyms in one go, you can just enter them here, comma separated. So I can just say this is also island, it's also land, it's also island friendly name. As long as I add them comma separated, they will all be added automatically. And this is like the technical interface of directly adding a bunch of synonyms. This works really well for simpler data sets. If you have a really specific data set, for example, for hospitals with a lot of specific terms, there's one more thing that you might want to tweak, which is the linguistic schema. You can find it here on top, and this linguistic schema can be both imported and exported, and is a YAML document that includes specific terms and to work with really specific things that are related to your business case. Since it's really specific, I will not go deeper into this linguistic schema. But again, as I already told before, it is AI, so as long as we tell it what to do, it will do what we expect it to do. Enough about this Q&A functionality. Let's move on to the next one. Explain increase or explain decrease. This is functionality that has been in Power BI since the very beginning. It's there for a very long time. So let's go back again to the same demo data set, and on the first page, we have a few line charts and bar charts and everything that can be used for some trend analysis. One of the lines is, for example, trending upwards here. And what I can do is when I do a right click, I have a functionality that is called analyze. And I can say, explain me based on all the columns that I have in my data set, why this number is increasing at this specific point. What Power BI will start doing is ranking results, searching for possible insights based on the specific date that I clicked, and it was probably the 1st of April 2017, or between the 1st of April 2017 and the 1st of May 2017, and it starts searching for insights. And what it's telling me now, based on other columns that are not related to this visual at all, is that the island Ohio had the most significant impact on the increase of island names. So in other words, possibly it is all related to spendings. There were a lot more people visiting the island Ohio. This can be an interesting insight for me. Based on what I prefer, I can give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. So actually, Power BI is learning from my feedback. I can tell this is a good result or it is crap. And we are training the model. Maybe I think this is a very useful visualization, and I really want to add this to my report because I think this will answer a lot of questions from other users. What I can do now is with this little plus icon that you see here, I can directly add it to my report by clicking this button. And let's zoom out again. You'll see that there's now a new visual added as a native visual as any other visual in my report. And this visual can be tweaked further, and as said, like any other visual, I can drop in other columns, change colors, whatever I prefer. but at least every single visual from this functionality can be added. I just explained the explain increase, explain decrease. For example, let's find a decrease. Here we have a decrease. We'll do a similar thing where it comes up, of course, with a different result why a number is decreasing. And again, we can train it by thumbs up, thumbs down, and add it to our page or not. So what's next? We have another functionality that's called analyze distribution. So let's move to a different data set now and a different demo data set. This data set is related to customers that are buying products from our company, whatever a company it is. And these customers have a specific interest why they're buying products at your company. That can be that you really offer them a really good price, or your delivery is very fast. The features your product has are more advanced than your competitors, reliability, services, whatever. There can be a lot of things that are influencing your customer to buy a product at your company instead of another one. On this left visual here, we see the customer counts by interest. So based on what our customers told us what their reason is why they're buying the products at our company, we rank that, how many customers told us that price is most important for them. And in this case, that's the most important one. So there's a bunch more of possible things that influence our customers, but let's do a right click on just a random column. I just picked features now, and again, we have the analyze functionality. And I can just have another option here, which is find where this distribution is different. When I click that, a similar pop-up window will show up. That is ranking the result again and is searching for what possible influencing column or what possible influencer is there in the data set where this distribution is different. So overall, because there was no filter applied, overall features was the third in the ranking. Where Power BI comes up with in this case is that the country has a big influence on this. So if the country is France, 29% of the records, and for Germany 15% of the records, and for UK even 51% of the records include a different distribution. So for France, the speed is most important instead of the features, where for Germany the price is most important and the rest is not important at all if we look at this. And for the UK, it's more or less similar. The spread is much wider, so both price, features, and reliability are really close. So the country where our customers are based is a big influencer of our insights. This feature has a similar functionality. It was bugging a bit, so let me re-pop it up. Okay, it is still. No, but what I wanted to tell you, it has a similar functionality where you can leave it a thumbs up, thumbs down, and add it to your report canvas. But the plus icon is somewhere outside of my window right now. This is not only insights that is found. There's another insight like the swap weight, whatever it is also an influencer. And here we see, and again, we really need to be on top of our data set because it gives me a complete string of data that is a possible influencer. Yeah, if I show this to my end user, they will probably think, what the hell is this? So again, it is important to know what your data set look like and hide columns that are not interesting or not interesting for your end user or not useful to use in functionality like this. I think these two, the explain increase, explain decrease, and the analyze distribution are two of the most hidden features in Power BI. They're hidden behind a right click, behind an analyze functionality. And honestly, how many people are using this in their reporting? I don't think that's a lot, but it can be really powerful, definitely. So let's move on to the next one. We have something that's called a key influencer visual that was introduced over the last year. And key influencer visual, let me quickly check what data set I need to pick. We're using again a different data set, which is the guest analysis data set. Key influencer visual is definitely an application of AI and is much more advanced than any other thing that we've seen so far. The AI function or key influencer visual is one single visual that is this whole thing. So it is one visual that includes multiple visuals and giving us some insights. I believe that this is really like a visual that is useful for the more analyst kind of users and not really for your end user, because it is pretty statistical and you have to know what you're looking at. Though it can be very useful, but it is also a very powerful visual, because if we have a look at this thing, what we actually built, let me transform it into a table. It's just a table. We just dropped in some random columns on the right side. And this data set is about customers that visited a hotel and what was their reason why they visited the hotel. What's their primary interest? Where they're from? Did they visit the spa? Yes or no? And what type of reservation was it? So now I just transformed it to a table, and let's transform it back to the key influencer visual, which is a native visual in Power BI. And what Power BI will do, we want to analyze something about our customers, and we don't know what is influencing them. So we just drop in a bunch of columns. In this case, it's primary interest, country, spa visit, and reservation type, and let Power BI search for insights. And what we will find now is what influencers our customers to be returning. So what influences our customers the most to be returning to our hotel? And in this case, it's very likely that they return if they are from the UK. It's also very likely that they return if they're from Japan, or even as a third one, if they visited the spa. This type of information can be very useful for you as an end user or as an analyst, because maybe it's a good idea to offer your new guests a discount to visit the spa, because you know that it's 1.6 times more likely that they return to your hotel if they visited the spa. Or maybe target some specific people in the UK and Japan with some marketing and give them a discount, because you know they're very likely to come to your place. This is a fully interactive visual. So if I click on this one, for example, I can see the distribution between purchase spa visit, yes or no. I can see the distribution here. Country is Japan. I can see the distribution of countries here. And all this is just fully interactive. It's a very big visual, but it's completely scaling as we would like it to be, because if I scale it down, I can just click and it's fully interactive. So I get the insights in a row, and once I click on one, it will show me the other one. So let's have a look at, for example, why are people not returning to our place? So give us some more insights, Power BI. So for example, if their primary interest is a honeymoon, it is not very likely that they return to our place, and which is actually a good thing if you ask me, because I hope that you're only having honeymoon once in your life, but you never know. But for example, this can be one of the influencers why people are not returning to your place, or if they're from Australia, or if they didn't visit the spa. So another reason to offer them a discount that they should visit the spa. So there's a bunch of influencers for not returning. There's one more functionality that is in this visual, which is the segmenting. We're still looking at not returning. So it segments the data, and in this case, 94% of our data set is in the first segment, where they did go on. The primary interest is honeymoon. They did not visit the spa, and they are not single. If you ask me, a primary interest for a honeymoon and they're not single is very likely to be combined, but yes, it is one of the columns that we dropped in this visual. The second thing is the 92.9% is the primary interest is not relaxation. They're not on honeymoon, and they're not visiting the spa, and they're not single. So you can segment your data pretty quick and get some more insights about it. And if I click on the learn more about the segment, it will start spinning up a certain thing, as we've seen with the quick insights, analyze distribution, and the other features, where it will give me more insight and start searching for insights in the data set. Again, as any other thing that we've seen so far, it has a thumbs up and a thumbs down button to rank if this was useful for you or not. I think, and I believe this is a really powerful visual that you can use much more in your reporting, especially for more explorative reporting. Decomposition tree. The decomposition tree is another AI visual that was introduced during the last year. The decomposition tree is also one that I prepared in a demo, or at least I borrowed the demo from Microsoft. This visual was introduced in November 2019, and in this visual you can see a split of a number based on different columns. So let's get rid of all the columns that we show at this moment. And let's, for example, have a look at how this thing works. It has a similar way of working as we've seen with key influencer visual. We drop in a number, in this case it's our measure for the sales amount, and we let Power BI explain it by manufacturer, sales size, color, country, and class. So this is a typical sales data set where we sold products to whoever in whatever country, and products from a manufacturer and a different with different properties. So it is again a fully interactive one. We have a slicer here, and once we reset the slicer, we see that the number is changing. So it is fully interactive, and our total sales in this case is for almost $4.5 million. We click the little plus icon here. We can say Power BI, let's split this number by the highest influencer. What is this influencing this 4.5 million the most? Once we click that, we can see that the class of the products is one of the biggest influencers, because almost 2.9 million or 2.8 million is in the category or in the class regular, where only 500,000 is in economy and only 1 million is in deluxe. So this can be one of our things where we can decide to target on. Like, okay, we should target on more on the regular products because that is our biggest influencer for our sales amount. But let's split it one more time by the highest value. There we see that the sales size is also medium, the highest influencer. As I said, it's fully interactive. So once I click now on Deluxe, I can see that for the category Deluxe, we have another influencer that is not sales size, but manufacturer is the second influencer in the category Deluxe. And therefore, Fabricam is our biggest influencer in this category as a manufacturer. And for economy, we again have sales size, where small is our biggest influencer. So it is fully interactive. We can let Power BI split by a high value or a low value. So what's most influencing this number or less influencing this number, or we can decide to directly split it by a column of our choice. So I can say I want to split it by country, and directly splits by country. And also this is fully interactive as we like it to be. I believe another very powerful visual with a different starting point, because here we start always with a measure or a column that can be summed and can be calculated, and then gives us some insights in what is influencing this number. So let's move on to the most powerful one, which is the premium feature, which is the AI Insights. And AI Insights is something that we can do with key phrase extraction, sentiment scoring, language detection, or even things like image recognition. This all runs Cognitive Services on the back, and Cognitive Services is an Azure service. And Cognitive Services can do things with vision, speech, language, knowledge of search. There are a very lot of different cognitive services available in Azure, but let's have a look at what we can use in Power BI. Things we can do is, and the screenshot that you will see, or the little video that you see, is running a classification based on a column. But things that you can do is, for example, if I have a column with a large text field, I can analyze that and showing where is this text about in just a few words. So what I did is go to Airbnb and open a random. I opened a random location on Airbnb. In this case, it was Stockholm. Opened a random stay, and I started analyzing what is the most interesting place to stay. I dropped in 3 stays in the city in one model, and I got it here. And I started creating a report out of that. So what we will have here, I first scraped the data from Airbnb, which resulted in this table, if it starts loading. Let me just show you the results, how it should have looked like. It resulted in this table. So I do have a few locations where somebody gave a review on a certain date, and the review can be in any language. So here we have something in Dutch. What else do we have? We have something in English and different languages. It doesn't really matter. As a second thing, what we started doing is scoring the sentiment that we have here. We detected the language, and that returns in both the full name and in the abbreviation. But let's just show you what it could look like. Let's go back to the query editor. And since this one is failing, I will just quickly enter something like a very negative or a very bad place to stay. So I just quickly enter 2 values. And what we can do nowadays in Power BI Desktop, and what we can also do in a data flow, if we select a column, we have an option here on the right top, which is text analysis. If we have a picture, we can use Vision or use an Azure machine learning model, but what we will do is do text analysis. As said, this requires Power BI Premium. While this one is loading, it will show me 3 options in a second, which is detect language. So based on this column, I can detect what language is this text. Extract key phrases. So in other words, these few words, what is the most interesting word? Where is this text about? And score sentiment. So how positive or negative is this word in rating from 0 to 1? On the bottom here, I can select the premium capacity that I want to use. I only have one. If you have multiple premium capacities, you can decide to run these scripts on a different capacity. But let's do, for example, the score sentiment. I can select a column here. And interesting enough, it asks me for a language ISO code. So it asks me, what language is this text? It is optional, so we're not going to enter it. Because what Power BI will do is first run the detect language and afterwards use the result of that as an input for score sentiment. So let's just click OK and wait for a second, because what Power BI will start doing is generating these functions that we see on the left. These functions include new Power Query functionality, which we see here on the top, which is AI functions.content, and inserts the parameter value, which is our text. In a second, it will show up and it will show us a number between 0 and 1. So there we go. The first text that I entered was a very bad place to stay. As you can see, it returns us a number from 0.05. So it is very negative. The other one, a likely place and lovely scenery, is 0.82. So it's much more positive. It's close to, yeah, let's say it's ranked as an 8. Of course, you can do this with much more data. Now we only had 2 values and longer sentences and everything. But let me just show you what the result can look like. Here I created a report, and as I said, based on Airbnb data with 3 different locations, which were in Manchester for this report. I gave it a star rating based on the sentiment score, and my minimum sentiment score is 0.48, and the average is almost 0.8. The maximum one is 1. So there is one that is really, really positive. I can also see there are 2 languages, English and Dutch, Netherlands. And I have all the full review text here at the bottom. The word cloud is representing the key phrase extraction, where the words are picked that are ranked based on size, on what is mostly influencing to be positive or negative. As you can see, the word location is pretty big. So the location is one of the biggest influencers to be ranked positive. If I click on positive, I see it's only UK, so only English reviews. And let's see on one of these reviews, for example, this one from Martina. I had a wonderful stay at Borrow's flat. It's exactly as described: stylish, light, tasteful, decorated, very clean, comfortable, quiet, and safe, blah, 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 and much more text. What the sentiment analysis thing is doing is looking at specific words. So words like very clean or the very, quiet, safe, that are words that are ranked as positive things. If we have a look at things that are maybe a bit more negative, so let's pick a small one. This one, for example, it was the first time that we stayed in Airbnb place. Normally we go to hotels. So it is something that is analyzed here as something that's not really positive, because you're actually saying that you did something else before. Although it shows us afterwards that this was a really nice experience. So also looking at the ranking, it was ranked as 0.69. It was not very negative. But at least it gives us some insights in positive, negative, the sentiment score of the reviews. I believe this can be also really powerful functionality to enrich your insights. I did something similar with a different data set from a different location. Let me see if I still have it here. Where is it? Airbnb review analysis. Yep. This was a location close to Amsterdam, to Schiphol, to where our McCall office is, where you can see words like the station was a really positive thing. We had a lot more languages. The house, the train, probably this guy called Rudy was very positive. The place, the room, kamer, his room. So you can see that it's actually interesting to enrich your insights, what first looked like only a piece of text, and enrich it with some advanced insights and make it more useful. And as I said, AI is only telling what we tell it to do. So if we tell that that a specific word should be ranked as positive, for example, very quiet should be ranked as positive, then it will rank it with a more positive ranking. And this is also something that is trained. It is not a model that you can train yourself, but it will be trained by the cognitive services in Azure. I think that's said. Let's do a short recap. I believe that AI is more than BI. So artificial intelligence is more than business intelligence. Although artificial intelligence is not innovation, it is something that we are doing for a very long time already. We tell the computer what to do and it starts doing it. As long as we tell AI what to do, it will be capable of doing it himself the next time. I believe that AI is there definitely for inspiration, optimization, and detect patterns. So it can really enrich your insights. And with AI or with Power BI nowadays, AI is on your fingertips. As I've showed you, or I hope I've showed you, with a few clicks, you can apply AI to your own data sets. The next level insights that I showed you as last demo is the Power BI Premium feature. Although you don't have to commit to a Power BI Premium SKU to do so, there are other ways to do this. If you have a look at my website on my blog, I will also describe how you can do this even without Power BI Premium by directly leveraging the cognitive services in Azure. I hope you've enjoyed this session. If there are any questions, I see a bunch of them in the chat. Now is the time to start answering them. Marco is asking, maybe you've already told it, but have you ever implemented a project where Q&A is used daily? Interesting question. Honestly, none of the clients I work for. I believe one of my colleagues did, but that was based on the old Q&A functionality. And also because not a lot of people are familiar with it, with the power that it can have nowadays, I believe we should do it more often. Another question for Marco, which visual supports explain increase? As far as I know, that it's only working with line charts and only when you relate it to a time dimension. So it does it needs to have a date column. And anonymous, when you push explain increase, the machine learning model runs is deployed in the cloud. Yes, it is. It is running the quick insights functionality actually. I believe in Power BI Desktop it's not. Then it's running in the Power BI Desktop engine itself. And Andreas asking, can you explain again the segment side of the key influencers? Let's park that if we have time left. Is Power BI a mix of Excel, PowerPoint, and Word? Good question. Microsoft is positioning Power BI as the PowerPoint for data. So in that case, yes. Also, if you look at what components are used in Power BI that we might have seen before in the in Excel, like Power Pivot, Power View, and Power Query, those three components are also merged in Power BI. And that was where Power BI started back in 2015. And from that point on, they started developing and enriching Power BI as the data analytics tool. So yes, it is definitely something to do with Excel and PowerPoint. With Word, I don't think so. I don't think so. Not much.
Thank you, Mark. If you want, you can try to explain again the segment if you have time.
Yep, sure. Let's have a look. Here we have it. This was the key influencer visual. It is a more statical thing, and if we have a look at how it segments the data, let's see if we, for example, do returning, if we get something more useful. So here we had a customer data set. If we look at returning, they found 5 segments and ranked based on the percentage that are returning and population size. All these numbers doesn't have to show up to 100 because segments can be overlapping. And I think that's one of the main things that I didn't tell when I did this demo earlier. So it can be that people are in both segment 1 and segment 2. If you have a look at population count, for example, and if we do a count of the total population, that will probably be less than these numbers summed up. If we click on one of these segments, that will show us that 26% of our visitors for this hotel is coming from the country Japan, and they did visit the spa. And which is 14% higher than the average. So the average, I believe that is more related to the spa and not really to the country, but you cannot really take an average of a country. But so this is more a statistical analysis, and it's really, yeah, honestly, I'm not using that segmenting a lot, so I'm also a bit challenged here. But for example, the key influencer, the front side here, this is, I believe, much more likely and easier to interpret for end users as well. So yes, indeed, segmenting is a bit challenging because if we look at another one, so 20% is not from Australia, so they can be from any country, and they're also not from Japan. This, yeah, as I said, it can be overlapping. What I can do, I know that Justina, one of the program managers that worked on this visual, has a demo, and I believe that is using the same demo data set, and I believe that it's also published on YouTube. So what I will do is, once this recording is live on YouTube, I will look up that recording and post it in the comments.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mark.
Sure. Yeah, finally, I want to share my contact details again. If there are any questions that arise, feel free to reach out to me on any of the social channels and or drop me an email. I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Mark. Is there someone that is asking if you are going to share some of the demos you have shown today?
Yes, I can show a lot of them, or share a lot of them. I will post them on my GitHub page, as well as that some of them are already available.
Okay.
Because I leverage some Microsoft demos. So I include the links of that as well. There is a GitHub page that shows all the Microsoft demos. So for example, the one that I use for the decomposition tree, this one is a native demo from Microsoft, which was for the 2019 November release, for example.
Okay, Mark, thank you very much. We are used to open a thread on our user group in order to get all the questions that that comes from people viewing your session on YouTube or people that maybe thinking on your session as a question after. So we will collect this question and we will address them to your channel, or we will contact you after.
Sure, no problem.
Thank you very much again, Mark. It's been a very great session, very interesting. I've learned a lot today, so thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, pleasure's all mine. So thanks for having me. It was great presenting for your user group. Maybe one day I will come over to Italy to present another session there.
Yes, it will be a great. It will be great. I hope to see you face to face.
Yeah, would be good one day.
Yes. Thank you very much to Mark and to all of you. Appointment to see you next week for another appointment of our user group and our webinars. So thank you very much, and see you next week. Bye bye.